A few years ago, I was speaking at a Bigfoot conference. Yes, they are a real thing. There are several that happen all over the country where researchers come together to talk about the latest findings in the search for Bigfoot. So here I was speaking to 100 people about how the search for the big furry guy is a worthwhile educational topic to explore with kids. After my talk, I signed some books and realized that just a few years ago, I had no idea Bigfoot conferences even existed, nor did I ever picture myself speaking at one. The journey to looking for Sasquatch, or squatching as it's called, began when I was a kid. My mom went to the bookstore and asked the bookseller for something to read to me at bedtime. Without hesitation, the woman handed my mom not a book on cute elephants or cuddly penguins, but she handed her The Hobbit and told my mom to read it to me every night, which my mom did. And those nights spent cuddling in bed, hearing about those epic battles and grand adventures are some of my favorite childhood memories. It also left a strong impression on me because as I got older, I wanted to live a life that was full of fantasy and adventure. So in college, I switched my degree from international relations that I was taking because I wanted to be a spy, even though I didn't like the idea of getting tortured for information because I knew I'd crack immediately. So I changed my degree from international relations to theater performance studies. I thought, well, if I can't be an actual spy, I might as well play one on TV. As I approached, after I graduated college, I lived in London, LA, and finally New York City, working my tail off, which really meant that I was working hard at my day jobs and doing very little acting. I just couldn't seem to get anywhere with it. Now, I knew that show business was a tough business and acting was nice work if you could get it, and I just couldn't get it. As I approached my 35th birthday, I realized that I was single, broke, and unsuccessful. I had developed a horrible case of stage fright because I had faced so much rejection that my body froze at the mere prospect of encountering more. I knew I had a creative voice, but I had no idea how to use it. I had tried commercials, improv, audiobooks, stage, TV, and one very ill-advised audition for a traveling acrobat show, even though I'm not an acrobat. Needless to say, I didn't get that job. I couldn't gain traction anywhere and wondered constantly what I was doing wrong. Then one day I was sitting on set for a short film I was acting in and started telling a fellow actor how lost I was feeling. He listened intently and at the end of my story said, "You need to go traveling." I asked him why he thought that, and he said, "It sounds like you don't like the life you're living, so you need to change the channel. And the best way to change the channel on your life is through traveling. It gets you out of your funk because you are deep in the funk and you need to get out." As soon as I heard those words, I decided that he was right. I needed to get as far away from my funk as possible. So I took on extra hours at work and saved up enough money to go on a hiking tour through New Zealand where I'd visit the sets for the Hobbit movies. My life had become so unadventurous that I really needed to do something epic. Now, I was a little nervous traveling alone, so I asked my mom if she supported me in doing the trip. She said she thought my money would be better spent on a therapist, but figured that flying as far away from my problems as the earth would allow might have some positive effect too. So I packed my bags, spent a week in Australia, and then hopped over to New Zealand for my Hobbit tour. Some people say there are moments in life that shift the trajectory of your life forever, and this was definitely one of those moments. I told a fellow hiker about my funk, and he said that if I really wanted to make a change, the best way to do that was to look at the evidence of my life and shift it from there. So I spent that night looking at the evidence of my life. I had a steady job as a Pilates teacher that paid my bills fine. And when I wasn't teaching or taking acting classes, I was sitting in Brooklyn coffee shops. Looking at that evidence, I thought, so how can I be creative within that? And I realized that I could write. And everyone else at Brooklyn coffee shops were writing novels. I might as well too. And the very next day, as we were hiking through the New Zealand mountains, an idea for a story popped right into my head. I began writing that night, not even sure I would like the process, and was tickled to discover that I adored writing. I felt happy. I didn't have to worry about my stage fright. And best of all, I was creating again. Within months, I had a book finished. It didn't go anywhere because I discovered in hindsight that I basically wrote The Hobbit, but it didn't matter because I already had an idea for a new book. See, I had read an article in the paper about Charlie Sheen, who had put together a hunting party to go to Alaska to find the otter man. I thought, who is the otter man and what does Charlie Sheen want with him? And after doing some research, I discovered that the otter man was a cryptid, or a legendary animal that might be real, and that set me off on a whole new tangent for my writing. That book got me an agent, and within months I had a book deal, which took me away from being a failed actor and turned me into a published author. I always knew that I wanted to live a life of fantasy and adventure. It just took me a while to realize that there were many ways to do that. And when I look at my life now, it makes so much sense that this is what I do. I just had to pivot my focus a bit to get here. I am an author of books for 8 to 12-year-olds filled with epic battles and high-tailed adventures about legendary animals. I speak at Bigfoot conferences about how exploring these animals gets kids interested in reading and science. And perhaps tonight, a parent will be reading one of my books to their child, and that child will decide that they too want to live a life of exploration and adventure.